And anyway, as I was saying, um, at this point, you're the only participant, so you get to ask anything you want, and you have my complete attention. So it's 6 o'clock. I'm going to start if you're good with that.
I'm ready to go, ready to rock and roll.
Okay. What I'm going to do is share my desktop so you can see that. And I'll bring up my PowerPoint presentation. Tell me when you can see it, Mark.
Okay. It's loading. Come on.
Yeah, it takes a little while sometimes.
It's halfway. Come on, come on.
Okay.
It's like, show yourself. Uh, um, I feel like it's just like stuck on halfway for some reason. Um, hmm. Seems like it's just like, oh, there we go. All right, we're in.
Okay. So you're seeing the title slide. All right. Week 3 live session. Great. Let's move. So here's what we're going to look at today. Who's here? So far, it's just you. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we had others join us. I want to give you and your fellow students an opportunity to ask any questions that are on your mind. We'll look at those week 3 objectives and we'll discuss them a little bit. I'll give you an opportunity. I'll present the week 3 assignments, and I'm not going to go through every point of it, but I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to ask any questions you might have about your week 3 assignments or other assignments that are coming up, and anything else you want to talk about. So that's what we're going to do.
Okay.
So who's here? It's just you and me. This is a crazy picture. It's kind of designed to make people laugh. That is me. But if you tell me something, have you ever heard of the TV show Gilligan's Island?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Well, it was in the 1960s, a long time ago. It was on when I was a kid, and my sister had an annual costume party, and this is one of the characters. So I dressed up as.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Let me just check to see if indeed, yeah, you are still the only one here along with me. Okay, you'd asked one question about the live sessions. Do you have other questions that I can answer for you, Mark?
Um, well, concerning can we talk about like the assignments for this week, or is that later in the presentation?
It is later, but if you want to go to that now, I'm happy to go there. So let's just
Okay,
flip a
yeah.
couple. So the first assignment structure, okay, ask your question. Go ahead.
All right. So the the group project that we have, the structure follow strategy. I
Yes,
see. Yeah. So are we picking an organization that we got graded on last week? Like one the org? Because
it
I
could
like.
it could be one that you did last week, and usually it is, but it's just one of the organizations that the team agrees. So your individual assignment for week 3 may or may not be about the organization that you were to do last week. If it is, you can make a case that for the team assignment, it should be your organization, or if another team member has a better candidate, no, you might want to vote in favor of that. So it's not likely to be an organization that's not been already discussed, although it could be. But in any case, and let me go to the assignment instructions. Let me just bring up my week 3 here, and we'll go to the team instructions. And so the idea is that your team, the organization selected, is expanding into a global market. Let's hear what we're talking about. into which you guys might have a good sense of profitability, different characteristics uh, than the global market, I mean, than the current focus of the organization, whatever organization is chosen.
Okay.
And so you want to analyze current objectives, look at the current organizational structure, and depending on the organization, if it's PepsiCo or Apple or Southwest Airlines, it's going to be a pretty small organizational chart. It's not going to be the great big one that goes into any detail. And then to have a global focus, you're going to recommend changes to that organizational chart and changes to other areas of their planning and goals. So the product is a 10 to 12 PowerPoint slide that does include detailed speaker's notes. Okay, that's something I really think is important. Could be voiceover, which is another thing, and that'd be fine. So examine current strategic objectives, determine the structure. It's good if that structure is presented in an org chart. Discuss how expanding to a global market affects work functions. Recommend changes in the structure, that is to say the organizational structure, that may facilitate a new global strategy. Determine components of a change management strategy and recommend next steps for an action plan. So that's kind of where I'd like the assignment to go. It does talk here about a PITCO chart or I don't care how an organizational chart is created, but it is part of the assignment, needs to be in there. It doesn't have to be one of these things. They're just there for reference.
Okay. Now, what if the company that we are selecting already has a global entity that they've already established? Is that okay?
Yeah, potentially it's okay. Let's say that you chose Apple for an example.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have a big footprint in China. That's where the bulk of their manufacturing for iPhones takes place. Maybe your learning team might want to have them expand into Europe, for the sake of distribution being made much easier by having them manufactured and distributed in Europe. Just for example. So it could be an organization that already has a global presence, but it needs to be a different emphasis. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I just didn't know that if we had to just choose a domestic company and expand to something global, that's kind of, I guess, kind of forecast how things would be since they haven't done it already. That's what I thought. But since we can a company that already has a footprint globally, then all right, that makes it a little easier.
Okay.
We were deciding on the company that we were trying to figure out, but I wasn't sure. Like, hey guys, we want to make sure we're picking the right company because I don't want to get deducted points for picking a company that's not correct. So.
Well, I've had lots of companies picked in the times I've taught this class, and some of them, have a pretty significant global presence, like Coca-Cola, which doesn't have a strong global presence in some areas of the world. So it's got to be one that does have some room for expansion somewhere in the globe. And then, the details of your assignment will flesh that out, exactly what's going to be proposed and some of the considerations involved.
That's good. All right. I think that was the only question I had about the assignments. So, yeah.
You good then with the, have you looked at the individual assignment instructions? You good with those?
Yeah, the purpose of this thing. Um,
I'm gonna bring them up now.
yeah, I'm gonna
Here we go.
one leader.
So this one is about an SWOT analysis, right? And it's about, this is really, this can be a lot of fun for people. Um, you know, the idea is to find somebody in the organization you choose that you can interview. And the idea is to do an external and internal analysis and do that by asking the appropriate questions of somebody, you know, up enough in the chain to where they know what's going on.
Oh, okay. So when you're saying 5 to 7 questions, are there set questions or is there questions that we can just come up with? Like,
Well, they need to be focused on the internal analysis and the internal environment and the external environment. So, you know, a SWOT analysis is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. So you're going to be asking whoever it is, you know, what are the organization's strengths? What are the weaknesses? What opportunities do you see? And what threats do you see? So that's going to be part of it. And then other things might, you know, use your imagination. Are there product lines that you think the organization might want to consider getting into? Do you see this expanding economy as something that would provide opportunities for global expansion, since you're going to be doing that in the team assignment? You know, it could be anything that's you know, relevant to the assignment and that provides some useful information. It's not
all
a
right.
big
Now,
assignment. No more than 525 words. So that's
yeah,
not.
I that kind of caught me off guard. I'm like, wait a minute, it's usually more than not no more than.
Yeah. The idea here is for it to be a short paper because your efforts are going to need to be focused on that PowerPoint presentation that the team is doing.
Okay. Um, Now on this paper that's 525 words or less. Um, do you want us doing like step by step each question that was asked, and then like kind of give like a summary at the end of like what we thought?
I don't need the questions, but previous students have provided the questions, you know, and they've done that outline. You know, question one, what is the organization's strengths, and then have listed some strengths. Question two, what are the organization's weaknesses, and so forth. So it can be done that way. That really takes up a lot of your word count. I'm more interested in the, you know, the interviewees take on the organization and what they see as um, opportunity. I think opportunities is big with this because it's going to lead into that global expansion. It doesn't have to. I guess it can.
Okay.
But yeah, and if somebody goes over 525 words, I'm probably not going to dock them unless they have 1,000 words, and I'm going to wonder why.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. All right. So, so basically, what I'll do is I'll probably like kind of cite the questions, some like not all of them, but like some of them within my paragraphs, and to say yeah, like kind of reference them um in my SWOT analysis. So, but I won't spell each one out like question one, question two. I'll just kind of mix it in there from one paragraph to the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is this? Oh, okay. I just see organization of your choice. I thought it was the organization from last week, but it can be of your
Yeah. So typically, because students know their own organizations best, either past or present, typically they do use the same one, but it's certainly not required. I'm not looking for it. It could be an organization very different from the one used previously.
Okay. Okay, makes that's perfect. Um, all right. Yeah, I think that's all the questions concerning the assignments. That's yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I pretty much got the hang of that. Okay.
So our objectives in week 3, because I want to go back to these. The SWOT analysis is front and center this week, and I think there's good reason for that. As an MBA, you are going to be expected to know what a SWOT analysis is, what the elements are, and how they're conducted. And so this is giving you practice to do that. And that's fine, internal, which is strengths and weaknesses, external, opportunities and threats. But it's extremely important in my mind that you understand that the SWOT analysis is a tool. It's not the end result. The information that is provided and obtained through a SWOT analysis is used in creating a strategic plan. And it's the strategic plan, once it's put in place, that is actually the end result. So SWOT is a tool, plan is a thing. I hope that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. So the SWOT is the guide, not the guideline, but I guess the like you said, the tool to get there, but it's not the end all be all for it, I guess.
No, the SWOT is like if we go to auto mechanics, a SWOT is a wrench, and the engine running is the final result.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay, makes sense. And all right. No, I was just reading up. I was reading it. Sorry.
Yeah, and yeah, this is covered in the reading too. And this an internal and external analysis that gets you to this last objective. When you know what the organization is good at, when you know and decide, well, what things they might want to get into, when you know things that might be holding them back, then you can determine the strategic objectives, 5 years out, 7 years out, something like that. And that helps you determine business goals and eventually shorter term operational tactics. So the strategic objectives, that's a long way out. Business goals, a little closer in, 3 years. And operational tactics, those are things we're going to put in place next year. So these are the types of things that are elements of a strategic plan, and that's where these analyses take you.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sorry, I didn't. What do you do though? Like, have you ever gone to a situation where you're doing a SWOT analysis and a company says, "Oh, we don't have any weaknesses"? What do you do in that?
See, that is a really good question, Mark. And one of the issues I think I pointed out a couple of times in the postings of your classmates, there is this sense in a lot of companies that everything we do is good and any criticism is disloyalty. But the weaknesses as part of an internal analysis are not criticism. They should be factual, and there should be an atmosphere in the organization where somebody who brings up factual weaknesses are not going to suffer any kind of retribution. That makes the analysis useless. If people are just parroting the company line because they don't want to get in trouble for mentioning things that everybody knows but nobody says, then we're going to end up with a useless document, I'm afraid.
Okay.
So there
So
has to be
there,
an openness and a willingness on the part of top leaders to hear bad news, to work to not only identify weaknesses, but have plans in place down here at the bottom to remediate those weaknesses. And there can't be any kind of retribution for those people who are doing their best to uh, respond to the requirement of naming weaknesses. Every organization has weaknesses, and no such thing as a human enterprise that is perfect, because people aren't perfect. So, and I know that happens. I know there's a number of organizations, particularly when I was in the Army. There were some that, yeah, you just didn't give bad news to the commander, not unless you want your head handed to you. Well, that doesn't work, not in a SWOT analysis.
yeah. Now, if a company is pretty much hell bent on it, saying like, hey, we're good. I guess that's their weakness, right? Their arrogance, I guess. Would you consider
Excellent
their
point.
weakness?
Yeah. Inability to be frank about the actual state of issues in the company. Yes. Good point.
Okay.
Now,
That's what I was thinking.
sometimes, in practice, a SWOT is done by somebody with who's when I say done by, I mean facilitated by or led by or prompted by somebody who's kind of outside the immediate organization. If a police department, say, because I've done that, having worked in local government a lot, if a police department is putting together a strategic plan, um, that kind of uniform command organization, you really need somebody from outside who's not afraid to um, cross horns with the chiefs if necessary to be able to get an honest product out there. Consultants do this
Yeah.
sometimes, lead the discussion, but in the end, it is the people working there who have to identify those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. That was the main question because that was the first thing that popped in my head when I saw the SWOT analysis. Because I've worked in certain companies where there was a small business, and the mom and pops, they don't want to hear that their company has any weaknesses. They're like, oh, this company's been around forever, so we have no weaknesses. Right? Like stuff like that. It's just very I guess disheartening that you can't be frank and I guess realistic with them.
Yeah, it can be disheartening, but as far as a strategic plan, if it's built on faulty assumptions, faulty data, faulty weaknesses, it's not going to be worth very much in the end.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. I'm trying to think. There was one more thing that I came across. Um, oh yeah. All right. So the um the discussion questions, not questions but posts. Um,
Yes.
I understand the three types of planning, strategic planning, uh, tactical planning, etc. Um, Now, when it's saying SMART goals, I saw what was in the textbook. But can you expand a little more on it? I know it's like this thing, like it's goals that are obtainable. That's what a SMART goal is.
Yes. Yes. Uh,
But,
along with
I thought all.
some of the issues involved in people who think their companies are perfect. Sometimes some managers, especially if they don't understand much about management, may have goals for employees or for the organization that are unattainable, like I'm not sure, double profitability in the next 6 months or something. It's an endless list of things. But goals have to be attainable through reasonable, concerted effort. If they're not, if they're unattainable, then they're not very useful. You know, world peace. Well, the great goal, love it. Not going to get there. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's very important that they be attainable and measurable. If you can't measure something, then you're not going to be able to determine whether or not it can be achieved. And the measures have to be um, crafted in such a way that the activity being done is appropriately measured. If you're counting phone calls in a call center that certain employees are taking and dispatching, well, that may be an appropriate thing. If you're the city manager's secretary and you're counting phone calls, well, that's not particularly useful. So the measures need to be something that accurately gets to goal achievement or lack of achievement, so that in an analysis that's done, um, changes can be made to procedures or to the goal itself so that it can be attained.
Okay. All right. That
Does
makes
that
sense
answer your
then. Like,
question?
so, yeah, I just feel so now when you're saying that when it's obtainable, is it obtainable to the employee or obtainable to the man? Like, because I feel like every manager would put out a goal that is somewhat obtainable. So say if an employee thinks that it's not obtainable, does that
Well,
but the manager thinks it is?
typically there's a negotiation that takes place, and that's part of that management by objectives discussion that was in the reading. Um, Typically, there is a meeting of the minds. If somebody believes that's being charged with the accomplishment of some goal, that he can't achieve that goal for whatever reason, doesn't have enough staff, doesn't have enough time, or the work is changing for whatever reason, um, and the manager is not going to listen, well, that's that. But usually there's an understanding. Usually managers know the business enough to be able to determine whether or not a goal is achievable. And yeah, there's all kinds of missteps that happen in thousands of businesses. Um, but if a goal just isn't attainable, doesn't work, or the manager says, "Thanks very much for your input. You're still going to achieve this goal, and I'm going to hold you accountable for it." And the poor slob doesn't get it done. Does he get fired as a result? Well, sometimes yes, I guess. If in the mind of the manager that goal was indeed achievable. And sometimes, managers are given goals, they don't get to craft them, and they don't have any flexibility. So, there's lots of give and take in this stuff. And it's not static, it's changing all the time. That's the purpose of reviewing goals. So in week 6, we're going to get into the control function of management. That's the last function of management. And there's going to be ways to determine whether or not goals are being made, and then what to do about those that aren't being achieved, and how they're identified, and then what are those next steps. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling now. I don't want to ramble, Mark. Is that getting to your concern?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Like you said, there's usually a meeting of the minds when it comes to certain goals. So I understand it now. I, I was just concerned, thinking, hey, a manager can come up with a goal that they think is obtainable, but the student won't. So, like, but if there's a negotiation process, then I guess that makes it a little better.
Well, ideally, but the ideal is a long
Perfect
way
world.
from real life sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
You're asking some great questions. Spill them. You're doing great.
I um I think that's probably some of like the only questions I have left for this week. I'm um yeah, I don't think I see any other questions that are gonna come up. Like, right. Yeah.
And that's fine. That's fine. Not here to take any more of your time than is necessary. If there's nothing else on your mind, I do have one thing I want to point out to you. And hopefully, if students watch this recorded video, because I'll provide a link to it, I'll post it to YouTube and provide the link. I want you to be thinking about the final exam, which takes place in week 6. Okay, so I know that's out there. I know you got nearer term objectives, but that exam is it's a tough exam. It's 30 questions, multiple choice. I think I posted something about it in week 1. Um, so because I don't want anybody to have an inaccurate view of what that exam is. And it's not something I put together. It's put together by the course developers, and it's tough. It concerns all the readings, um, and it is worthy of being studied for, I guess is my point. So just keep that in mind as you go through the next couple of weeks. And I'll mention it again because I want you to do well.
No. Thanks a lot for the heads up on that one. Yeah, I'll definitely keep that in mind moving forward.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anything else on your mind, Mark?
No, it looks like that's it. So what? So what do we get? Do we get? You said, I know you said like this. What's it? Half participation? You said it gets.
Yes. So by your great participation in the live session, you have earned half participation for week 3. So that's 2 out of 4 points. If you post 4 substantive responses to the questions and whatnot, the first messages or the responses of your fellow students, 4 more, then you'll have full participation for credit for week 3.
Oh, okay. I heard that completely wrong. I thought, for some reason, I thought it was half a point. That's why I was confused. I'm like, how do you get half a point?
No, it's half the credit. So that's 2 out of 4 points. Each week's participation is 4 points of your grade, your final grade, out of 100 points.
Understood.
So 24 points total.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And you've earned half of them for week 3 already.
Awesome. And then, all right, so just add another 4 more posts, and then I'm good with participation.
You got it. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think those are all the questions I have.
Great. Well, you think of some, let me know. I'm here for you. And even though I'm not in the live session after we hang up, I'm obviously always available to answer your questions. One of the things I did want to say to you, and I don't care if other students hear it, is, I'm really sorry for messing up your participation grade in the first 2 weeks. And I'm glad we got that corrected. I'm glad that you brought it up to me. I appreciate that very much because I'm not out to cheat anybody, believe me.
No. Yeah, I kind of figured it was just a slight oversight. So I just was like, hey, let me just shoot him a private message really fast. Yeah, because I'm sure you're pretty busy with all the other students also. So I just
yes,
like, hey,
sir, I am.
shoot him something.
Yes, and is this your first class in the MBA program?
Yep.
Okay, well, I think you'll find, and I'm not bragging, I'm just telling it like it is. Yeah, I think you'll find it to be very rare that an instructor will have the grades posted by the Tuesday after the Monday of the end of the week. That's very rare.
Right.
So it may be more like Saturday before you get the grades. But I committed myself a long time ago to making sure that I get those put out just as soon as possible so that students can learn from them. So yeah, Tuesday's a very busy day for me, but that's me. That's my practice. But flubbing up with your participation, that's not an excuse at all. I just am busy that day.
No problem. No. Thanks a lot for the correction, though. Like, I just wanted to make sure everything was good. So,
Me too.
uh,
Me too.
thank
Yeah,
you.
we're of the same mind. We have a meeting of the minds, Mark. That's right.
There we go. We're having we're having a negotiation right now.
Yeah. Okay, well, I sure appreciate you participating in this week's live session. I'm here for the students. If they come, great. If they don't, that's sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. But I'm glad you did. I hope to see you in future weeks. And
So,
take care, Mark.
all right, I'll see you next week on Thursday.
That'll work great.
Awesome.
Bye for now.
All right, I'll take care.
You too.